Think about all the products you use every single day. The shampoo in your shower, the bandages in your first aid kit. We just trust them to be safe, right? But have you ever wondered why? Well, turns out there's this invisible web of EU rules working behind the scenes, and we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly how they keep us safe.
All right, let's kick things off with a little game. I'm going to show you a few everyday items, and I want you to figure out what they all have in common.
Okay, first up, cosmetics. We're talking about, everything from the shampoo and moisturizer you use to your lipstick and sunscreen. And next, something like this, a simple medical device. A face mask is a great example.
And finally, let's look at a medicinal product. You know, that box of aspirin or paracetamol you grab when a headache hits.
So have you figured it out? The one thing connecting all of these is that they are all super strictly regulated by the European Union. There's this massive legal framework in place to make sure they're safe and high quality, whether you're buying them in Spain or Sweden.
But why go to all this trouble? Well, it all comes down to a really fundamental idea, one that the World Health Organization put perfectly. They said health isn't just about not being sick, it's about complete well-being, physical, mental, and social. And that's what these EU rules are really designed to protect.
So here's what we're going to do. We'll quickly look at the rulebook for cosmetics, then for medical devices, and then for medicinal products. And stick around because at the end, we've got a really interesting legal twist, the difference between something called a regulation and a directive.
All right, let's dive into our first section, the Cosmetics Rulebook. And you might be surprised, this category covers way more than just makeup. And this is the really important part. It means that the cream you buy in Lisbon has to meet the exact same safety standards as the soap you buy in Warsaw. It's totally consistent. And how is that possible? Because there's one single, unified rulebook for the entire EU. And here it is, Regulation 1223 of 2009. That is the official rulebook for cosmetics. Now, I want you to remember that word, regulation. It's going to be really important in a few minutes. Okay, on to our next category, the Medical Device Rulebook. And this one is massive. It covers everything from a simple face mask all the way up to a super complex MRI machine. Now, obviously, since these things have a specific medical purpose, you can't just treat them like shampoo. They need their own set of dedicated rules to make sure they're not just safe, but that they actually work. So just like with cosmetics, medical devices get their own special rulebook. In this case, it's Regulation 745 of 2017. And, see that word again? Regulation. Keep that in mind. All right, and now for our final rulebook. And this is where the stakes are probably the highest. Medicinal products. Yeah, we're talking about the actual drugs we take to treat illnesses. And as you can imagine, the EU legal system takes this incredibly seriously. There's a totally separate legal path for these designed to make sure they're not only safe, but that they do what they promise. But here's where it gets interesting. Take a look. This is Directive 83 of 2001. Did you spot the change? It's not a regulation anymore. It's a directive. And trust me, that one little word changes absolutely everything. So that brings us to the big aha moment of this whole thing. What on earth is the difference between a regulation and a directive? Honestly, understanding this is the key to understanding how EU law actually works in the real world. So just to recap, you noticed that, right? We had two regulations, one for cosmetics, one for medical devices, but for medicines, we had a directive. So why? What does that difference actually mean for the stuff you see on the shelves?
Okay, and this really breaks it down. A regulation is basically a one-size-fits-all law. It's a single binding act that has to be applied exactly the same word for word across every single EU member state. A directive, on the other hand, is a bit different. It sets a goal that all EU countries have to achieve. So the goal might be all medicines must be proven safe. But then it's up to each individual country to write their own national laws to make sure they hit that target. This gives them a bit of flexibility, which is why you often see it used in really complex areas like medicine, where every country's healthcare system is a little different.
Okay, so you might be thinking, wow, that sounds kind of complicated. So why? Why does this whole system of regulations and directives even exist? What's the big picture here? Well, the reason is actually pretty simple and kind of brilliant. By creating one set of rules, what they call a harmonized system, the EU makes the whole process way simpler for businesses. And that leads directly to the main goal, making sure that products can move freely and easily between all the member countries.
And here's what that means for you. It means that a safe, high-quality face cream made in France can be sold in Poland without the company having to jump through 27 different legal hoops. It creates one giant, single market you can trust. And that gives all of us access to the safest and best products out there, no matter where in the EU we happen to live. So next time you grab a bottle of shampoo or a pack of bandages, you'll know there's this whole hidden legal story behind it. And it kind of makes you wonder, right? What other everyday things sitting around your house have their own secret rulebook just waiting for you to find out about it?